When J.K. Rowling released the first Harry Potter novel in 1997, few could have predicted the cultural juggernaut that it would become. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, renamed in the United States because they were convinced that Americans wouldn't know what a philosopher is. Makes sense, actually. The story follows a young boy, Harry Potter, who discovers that he is a wizard on his 11th birthday. As he enters the enchanted halls of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, he begins to unravel the mystery of his past, form close friendships, and face dark forces in a magical world that's both wondrous and perilous. The book's runaway success sparked a bidding war for the film rights, with major Hollywood studios eager to adapt the magical tale for the screen. Producer David Heyman was searching for a children's novel to adapt on the big screen. Originally, he had taken on The Ogre Downstairs, written by Diana Wynne Jones, but this fell through, and it was then when his staff put forward the book of the new Voldemort, J.K. Rowling, and her story of Harry Potter, somehow not being sued by the producers of Troll.
You knew?
For obvious reasons, the book was actually refused to be published by several people long before this. And contrary to popular belief, it wasn't a rags to riches story because she had loads of help from people giving her money to get this crap published. Yeah, can we just stop pretending that J.K. Rowling is a good writer, please?
Whoa!
Rowling sold the rights to Warner Brothers in 1999 for £1 million, with several strict creative conditions. Chief among them, the cast had to be British. What, J.K. Rowling discriminating? And the movie must stay true to the book's core tone and setting. Yeah, so much for that. She was onto her 4th book at the time, and she was quite hesitant to sell the rights at first, as she believed it would then allow the studio to take control of the entire story. They were only allowed to cast foreign actors if it was 100% necessary, such as in the 4th one. And then years later she just said, screw it, who cares?
I wonder.
Warner Brothers considered a variety of high-profile directors for the adaptation, including Steven Spielberg, who reportedly wanted to animate the story and cast Haley Joel Osment as Harry, and even wanted to combine elements of the subsequent books into the first one, which Rowling firmly declined. Eventually, he parted ways to direct AI instead, and other filmmakers considered included Chris Columbus, Terry Gilliam, Jonathan Demme, Mike Newell, Alan Parker, Wolfgang Peterson, Rob Reiner, Ivan Reitman, Tim Robbins, Brad Silberling, M. Night Shyamalan, and Peter Weir. By March 2000, the list of potential directors was whittled down to Silberling, Columbus, Parker, and Gilliam. Rowling wanted the latter, but the studio instead decided to go for Columbus based on his whimsical directorial style in Home Alone and Mrs. Doubtfire. He was already familiar with the books after his daughter pushed for him to read the first 3, and he landed the job after he put together a 130-page director's version of the script to show his vision for the movie, which he presented in a 45-minute speech to the executives at Warner Brothers. He then met up with Rowling and Heyman and spent 2 hours pitching his vision for the film, citing Great Expectations and Oliver Twist as his inspiration for the bleak and dreary Muggle scenes, and Oliver and The Godfather as his inspiration for the colourful and detailed wizarding scenes. Steve Clovis was brought on board to write the screenplay, but he admitted to struggling to adapt the book, as he felt it didn't seem as easy to do as the next 2 novels. He was incredibly nervous to meet with J.K. Rowling because he had transgender friends. He didn't want her to think that he was trying to destroy her creation, which he approached with reverence, often consulting Rowling directly to ensure accuracy, even receiving hints about future book developments to maintain internal consistency. And Rowling still somehow managed to let plot holes happen. With the cast only allowed to be British, Susie Figgis was hired as the casting director, who would work alongside Columbus and Rowling, with the main 3 characters being the most important actors to choose. The auditions had 3 stages, with the actors having to read a page from the novel, then improvising a scene of them arriving at Hogwarts, and finally reading some of Columbus's script itself. Thousands of children across the UK auditioned. However, on July the 11th, 2000, Figgis walked out of the production, claiming that she found thousands of children who had auditioned to have been worthy of the parts, only for Columbus to completely discard them all without any consideration. Among those who tried out for Harry were, ironically, Tom Felton, Jamie Campbell Bower, Jack Whitehall, Jamie Clifton, Liam Eichen, and William Moseley, before it went to newcomer Daniel Radcliffe after Columbus had spotted him in David Copperfield. However, Radcliffe's parents originally said no, as they wanted him to focus on his schoolwork, worried about all of the attention he would be getting. The producers then continued their search but couldn't find anyone nearly as good, eventually returning to persuade Radcliffe's father to let his son take on the job. However, Daniel wasn't convinced that he would actually play the character for all of the Potter films. He was positive that he would mess up the role or that he'd grow out of it as he got older. How'd that work out for you?
Why didn't I see it before?
Rupert Grint, a massive fan of the book, sent in a humorous audition video rapping about why he should play Ron. Hattie Jones was considered for the part of Hermione, and Emma Watson, with no professional acting experience, impressed casting directors with her confidence and intellect. perfect for the role of Hermione. But Rowling really wasn't a fan at first. In the book, Hermione is described as being an ugly duckling with buck teeth and big bushy hair, whereas Emma Watson, well, wasn't. But once meeting her, Rowling couldn't deny that they had found the perfect Hermione. For the role of Snape, Rowling desperately wanted Alan Rickman for the part, as she had him in mind when writing the character in the novels. However, the studio insisted on offering it to Tim Roth instead, as he was a much bigger star at the time. Roth ended up turning the job down due to fear of being typecast, opting to do Planet of the Apes instead, at which point Rickman could finally take on the job. Rowling even provided him with vital details regarding his character's backstory that we wouldn't discover until the final novel and film, allowing him to implement it into his performance. Christopher Lee and Sean Connery were both offered the part of Dumbledore, but both declined. Patrick McGoohan and Richard Attenborough both turned it down due to health issues. Alec Guinness really wanted the part, but he sadly passed away before filming could begin, and after much pestering from his grandchildren, Richard Harris finally took the role. Furthermore, Robin Williams and Rosie McDonnell lobbied hard to get the parts of Hagrid and Mrs. Weasley respectively, even offering to play the parts completely without any pay. However, Rowling and Columbus stuck to their British-only rule and instead went for Robbie Coltrane and Julie Walters. Although this is a lie because Chris Columbus's daughter Eleanor was cast in the movie as Susan Bones despite being American, and that's Vern Troyer as Griphook, another American, though they dubbed his voice with the British Warwick Davis. Conspiracy!
It's an outrage! It's a scandal!
David Thewlis tried out for the part of Professor Quirrell but was unsuccessful, though he would later appear in the franchise, while James McAvoy auditioned for the role of a young Lord Voldemort, and very nearly actually got the part but ended up turning it down after he learned that it would be put into a retainer agreement with 10 other actors. The filmmakers even wanted J.K. Rowling herself to play Harry's mother Lily, but she turned them down before Geraldine Somerville was selected. Principal photography began on September the 29th, 2000 and continued until March the 23rd the following year. Filming locations included Alnwick Castle for the exterior Hogwarts shots, Gloucester Cathedral for corridors and classrooms, and Leavesden Studios where elaborate sets like the Great Hall, Diagon Alley and the Forbidden Forest were built from scratch. Behind the scenes, the atmosphere was one of awe and dedication. Columbus worked hard to create a nurturing environment for the young cast, often shooting in chronological order to help the children evolve with their characters. Sets were designed with incredible detail, even rooms that wouldn't appear on screen were fully dressed to immerse the actors. And waste a lot of money. The producers also were able to change the UK child labour laws to slightly increase the working hours per week, whilst also accommodating the on-set classes. The young actors would do scenes for 4 hours a day before 3 hours of schoolwork. However, there were some issues. Daniel Radcliffe's eyes are blue despite the character's trait of having his mother's green eyes. He was going to wear contact lenses for this, but it caused the actor irritation, so Rowling did agree that it's fine for Harry to have blue eyes. Because screw it, we're going to chop and change what we have from the books anyway.
No, definitely not.
Columbus was also constantly checking with Rowling to make sure that all minor details were faithful to the source material, to the point that almost every line was approved by the author herself. In fact, one had to be removed after Rowling pointed out that it was going to contradict an event in the 5th book which hadn't even been released yet. And yet, there are still countless plot holes. What's your excuse there, Joe?
There must be a mistake.
Originally, the ghost character of Peeves from the book was played by Rick Mayall. Allegedly, when he filmed his scenes, the kids kept laughing so hard he had to shoot them all separately, but these ultimately all got cut from the final film. Mayall would later claim that it was the best job he ever had because he got paid and wasn't even in the movie. Bruce Springsteen recorded an original song for the film, but he faced the Mayall treatment and this was also removed. But strangely, Michael Jackson was a big fan of the novels and he wanted to turn the books into a musical, but Rowling said no. And get out of Harry's bed, you weirdo!
I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that.
The visual effects team led by Industrial Light and Magic created groundbreaking CGI for the time, including the troll, Quidditch scenes and magical creatures. Practical effects were also used extensively. Floating candles in the Great Hall were real, suspended on wires, though they often burned through and fell mid-scene. The iconic musical score by John Williams introduced the now legendary Hedwig's theme, becoming synonymous with the entire franchise and instantly recognisable around the world. Harry Potter and the Philosopher, Sorcerer's Second Cousins, Wife's, Neighbours, Dogs, Puppy, Sisters, Friends, Aunt, Sister, Stone was released on November the 16th, 2001 and was a fairly big hit. You may have heard about it. Grossing over $974 million worldwide, making it the highest grossing film of the year. Making it at the time the second highest grossing movie in history. It broke the record at the time for the highest grossing opening day during the previews with £3.6 million. Just the previews alone grossed $6.7 million. And it was unanimously praised by fans of the book and critics alike. Introducing new fans to the franchise, loving the whimsical and magical story. Critics praised the faithful adaptation, strong performances by the child actors, the production design, and John Williams' enchanting score. The film was nominated for multiple Academy Awards, including Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, and Best Original Score. The film launched one of the most successful franchises in history, leading to 7 more movies, theme parks, a spin-off series, and an enduring fandom that spans generations. It also cemented Harry Potter as a cultural cornerstone, influencing everything from fashion to language, and inspiring a global appreciation for reading among children and teens.
Take no safer place, not one, except perhaps Hogwarts.
He will be under the finest headmaster that Hogwarts has ever seen.
Who would attempt to get Harry brutally murdered several times, but we didn't talk about that. I, for one, am just glad that the movie doesn't have the same opening as the book, which focused mostly on the Dursleys. Yeah, in the novel, McGonagall actually stalks the Dursley family, which she does allude to in the film.
I've watched them all day. They're the worst sort of muggles imaginable.
This actually works in the novel, so this is a case of a great decision when adapting to film.
He's far better off growing up away from all of that until he is ready.
To be raised like a pig for slaughter. I will say, I'm not sure why this film isn't in the 1001 movies you must see before you die. Not only did it cause such an impact, not only is it the start of one of the biggest cinematic franchises of all time, but goddamn, there are so many quotables and memes that came out of this.
How many are there?
36, counted them myself.
There's no such thing as magic.
People will think you're up to something.
I'm going to bed before either of you come up with another clever idea to get us killed. Or worse, expelled.
She needs to sort out her priorities. We'll take the lot.
You're a wizard, Harry.
It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
Shouldn't have said that.
It's you that has to go on. I know it. Not me, not Hermione, you.
For better or worse. I do love the death stare Harry gives Dudley, like, all of the time. That being said, I love Vernon's facial expressions. No matter what Harry does, he's angry. Look, Vernon! Harry just brushed his teeth! But Vernon even threatens to murder Harry!
Any funny business, any at all, and you won't have any meals for a week.
Calm down, mate. I don't even blame Harry. Dudley is insufferable in this.
36, but last year I had 37. Dad, look, Harry's got a letter.
I love Robbie Coltrane in these films. Hagrid is just so damn charming and lovable. That being said, the child actors leave a lot to be desired. They are pretty bad in this one.
I'm a what?
This is platform 9 3/4. There's no such thing. Is there?
Oh, are you doing magic? Let's see then.
I can't be a wizard. What was that thing you saved me from?
If Harry and Ron hadn't come and found me, I'd probably be dead.
I think Rupert Grint is fine, but honestly, the only child actor who's really good is Tom Felton. But give them time, they do get better. I will say, I loved the books as a kid, so seeing this on the big screen was such a blast. It captures the magic of the novel so well. Yeah, pun intended, bitch. It's just a wonderful moment as they all sail off to the castle. John Hurt plays the owner of the wand store, and he's only in one scene, but he is brilliant as Harry keeps wrecking the place. It's a great moment as he warns him of Voldemort for the first time. It is so eerie and creepy.
The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter.
Well, sometimes. Depends on the film or the book. It's followed up by another creepy scene where Hagrid tells the full story of Voldemort. For some reason pronouncing the T, even though J.K. Rowling has now said that the T is actually silent in Voldemort, so if she was a consultant on the movie and approved every single line, why did she not correct them and say, hey guys, the T is silent?
And you are?
Ron Weasley.
Pleasure.
Oh, just you wait.
Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw.
Oh, that's me! The movie also has some really funny moments.
The third floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die a most painful death.
I just love Radcliffe's reaction, like, what the hell kind of school is this? Richard Harris often struggled to remember his lines, so Radcliffe would offer to rehearse with him, just so he could help him practice, which is really sweet. And I do love the groundwork they lay down for the future of Ron and Hermione's relationship.
Okay, relax.
Mental, that one. I'm telling you.
Alan Rickman is amazing as Professor Snape. Radcliffe admitted that he was incredibly intimidated acting across from him. And of course, look at him! He is perfectly cast. He nails this performance and delivers every word flawlessly. I think it helps that Rowling informed him of his character's fate, which adds to it. Just his subtle reaction to seeing Harry for the first time is great. And Harry's scar hurts, which he assumes is because of Snape. But Snape is talking to Quirrell, and we later find out that Voldemort is on the back of the fella's noggin, so he's looking straight at him, which is a really nice and subtle touch. Just looking at Snape's face, you can see so much. On first viewing, you assume it's Snape saying, "Oh my god, that's Harry Potter." But once you know the truth, you realise that he's actually blown away by how much he looks like his mother. There is a really interesting moment where the sorting prat nearly puts Harry into Slytherin, but he urges him otherwise, and Ron is absolutely hilarious in this film.
That was bloody brilliant.
And so are his brothers.
Rough game, Quidditch. Brutal, but no one's died in years. Someone will vanish occasionally.
But they'll turn up in a month or two.
In fact, some of Emma Watson's delivery is pretty funny too.
You don't even know how to fly. What an idiot.
Although he is right, Hermione does get really irritating at times. But you can tell that Emma Watson's giving it her all, bless her. I just love how Ron calls her a loser with no friends, makes her cry, and then he's not even fussed. Not my fault, bitch. There's also a character called Seamus who is hilarious in this. The whole joke is that he has a funny accent, so all of his spells go wrong. I actually find it funnier when he messes up rather than Neville, although it makes Harry seem like a bit of a dumbass.
I, a rabbit, harpstring home. Turn this water into rum.
What's Seamus trying to do to that glass of water?
Play with Lego, what do you think? There are so many cool visuals as the portraits and staircases move, and one of them is Henry VIII's wife Anne Boleyn, who was actually executed for supposedly practicing witchcraft. Man, the level of detail in this production is insane. It almost goes without saying at this point, but John Williams' score is just as outstanding as ever. There's also a scene where Neville has a remembrall but can't remember what he's forgotten. It's your robes, you silly twat.
Shut up, Harry.
That's what I love about this film. You can tell that everyone's having an absolute blast making it. In fact, Richard Harris, who had decades of acting experience, admitted that he never encountered a cast who was so close-knitted as this one. They were truly like a family. Although, yeah, some of the blue screens aren't the best. Although I love how Harry disobeying the teacher actually gets him rewarded and put on the damn Quidditch team. The movie is also paced really well. It covers the entire school year, but there's no filler. Every scene flows into the next one smoothly. So much happens and yet none of it feels rushed or dragged out. The CGI of a three-headed dog called Fluffy.
Who told you about Fluffy?
Is pretty bad, but it was 2001. Okay, there's not really an excuse here. Even the troll looks pretty bad. Yeah, so I'm totally convinced that Harry's on the shoulders of a giant killer troll. The late great Maggie Smith as Professor McGonagall is an absolute delight. I love her. I think the filmmakers need all the praise for bringing something as magical as Quidditch and this entire universe to life. It just looks fantastic. For its time, the cinematography of the flying scenes is pretty damn good. Although obvious CGI human is obvious. It's such a cool shot as he stands on his broomstick to catch the snitch.
Change of plans. My parents decided to go to Romania to visit my brother Charlie.
If you want to know more about him, read the books, loser! It is quite sweet as Harry gets so excited just to receive Christmas presents for once, the poor neglectful weirdo. And he gets a John Cena cloak, which does look pretty good. You see, in the book, it's revealed that his dad left it with Dumbledore, who then passed it on, but in the movie, it's never actually explained. But it could have also been Sirius Black. It's left ambiguous, which is kind of cool. It gets quite intense as he hides under it and nearly gets caught by Snape and Quirrell. And even Filch gives an amazing performance as he nearly catches him too. There's a slower scene to bring the pace back down as he finds his parents in a mirror, which works really well. Richard Harris is a delight as Dumbledore. Every word is said so warmly and wonderfully. There's a pretty cool moment as Hagrid's pet dragon hatches, even if this CGI is also pants. There is a cool moment where a centaur saves a unicorn from Voldemort himself, which does get quite dark considering this is film 1 and hasn't even dove into the satanic stuff just yet. Although there is a really weird line here.
Harry Potter, this is where I leave you.
But you didn't take him anywhere. Hagrid just showed up and then you buggered off back into the woods. I mean, it makes sense that he'd say that in the book because he actually did take Harry back to Hagrid, but that line just doesn't make sense in the film.
But if he comes back, you don't think he'll try to kill you, do you?
They end up having to do some challenges, and I love how they genuinely believed it would be as easy as just walking across the room and going out of the door. But Jesus, this game gets pretty damn brutal.
That's wizard's chess.
And this is where Grint actually gets really good the more emotion needed. The Voldemort reveal was so damn scary at the time. This was nuts. Even if the dialogue is a bit cheesy and cliche.
Join me.
No!
Never!
But Jesus, the film does get insanely dark as he gets strangled by a teacher. People talk about how dark the later sequels get, but this is crazy.
I have a few last-minute points to award. Harry Potter has really nice shoes. 20 million points to Gryffindor.
Although it is pretty sweet as he even gives Neville points and they win. And it is a really whimsical and magical moment as they depart back home, for Harry to be abused all over again. You see, Harry Potter and the Philosopher, Sorcerers, Neighbours, Cousins, Sisters, Aunts, Uncles, Ministers, Bishops, Dogs, Kittens, Dentists, Stone is a pretty damn good adaptation, with no problem whatsoever. Except, you know, they say that they can't use magic outside of school, except Dumbledore taking out the street lights, Hagrid flying a motorbike down, just hoping that no muggle is around to see this. Hagrid lights a fire, uses magic on Dudley, Ron uses magic on the train, as does Hermione. And all of the countless times it's also done in the sequels. It's also worth pointing out that the book explicitly states that the Harry Potter timeline starts in 1991. So if you see anything that isn't 90s tech, it really shouldn't be there. In fact, how is Harry clearly a tiny newborn baby when he's dropped off but then looks a lot older in the flashback? Not only do snakes not have eyelids and is really bad CGI, but why does Harry react so calmly to a snake talking to him? He doesn't even seem surprised. And why is Harry even allowed out to the zoo for Dudley's birthday anyway? It's pretty obvious they don't like having him around, so why bother? In the book, it's because the neighbour Mrs. Fig, who's cut out of this film, is unavailable, but it's not explained in the movie, so it just doesn't make any sense. Why doesn't he pick up a damn letter from the ground and make a run for it instead of jumping in the air for a cool cinematic shot like an idiot? There's a scene where Harry meets Quirrell for the first time and he offers his hand but he doesn't shake it. This is clever foreshadowing as we later find out that his touch kills him, but then why does he say, "What is this magic?" You didn't shake his hand because you knew that it would kill you, but now you're confused as to why his touch kills you. I mean, in the book, Quirrell isn't possessed by Voldemort until after Harry gets to Hogwarts. So why not just introduce Quirrell at the school later and avoid the plot hole? Isn't it a bit douchey for Hagrid to just abandon Harry on his own at the train station and not even bother to show him how to get onto the platform? And if Harry's birthday is in July, which was the previous scene, and he has to be at the station in September, what the hell were Harry and Hagrid doing for a whole month? Did Harry just hang out with the Dursleys? Did Harry and Hagrid watch Netflix for a month? What happened? And somehow nobody notices a bunch of wizards disappearing through a damn brick wall. In the books there's a spell that prevents muggles from seeing this, but it's never explained in the movie. All they needed was...
Excuse me, what about all of the muggles? Won't they see?
Don't be a silly twat, my dear. They can't see us.
This is Scabbers, by the way.
A grown man who sleeps in my bed with me and is currently on my crotch, and my brothers are fully aware as they have a map that tells them who it is, but they're completely fine with it for some reason. In a later installment, it turns out that Harry can see Thestrals because he experiences something as traumatic as witnessing another person die in part 4. However, in this one, he clearly watches Professor Quirrell die and he still can't see Thestrals. Which is weird because in the book, he passes out and therefore doesn't watch Quirrell die. But here, they deliberately kept him awake to watch the death, so they made a plot hole on purpose. He also watched his mother die, but I suppose he was too young.
Sorry about that.
Why does McGonagall leave all the first years all on their own almost instantly? So does the flying teacher, who barely appears in any of these films. Does she just get paid to teach one class a year?
The Dark Forest is strictly forbidden to all students.
Unless you get detention.
Tell me, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?
How would he even be expected to know this? It's his first day.
Can I borrow this?
Please?
That's the vault Hagrid and I went to.
Dude, you had one secret to keep. How has this school not been closed down? It's like day 2 and they already have a broken wrist. And why was Neville in trouble anyway? He's literally the only one who did what the teacher asked him to do.
Harry, you never told me your father was a seeker too.
His father's dead. How would he have known, you pleb? Also, he wasn't a seeker, he was a chaser. The movie changed it for some reason.
What do I do with it?
You catch it. Before the other team's seeker. You catch this, the game's over. You catch this, Potter, and we win.
Not necessarily. I mean, it ends the game, but it only gives you 150 points. I mean, if you're on 0 and your opponent has 160 points and then you catch the snitch, you still lose. And Owl drops off a package strangely shaped like a goddamn broomstick, and Harry still opens the entire thing before realising...
It's a broomstick.
There is a nice twist where the kids think Snape is cursing Harry's broom, but if you look closely, you can see Quirrell is doing, and Snape is only doing a counter curse.
I tried to kill you. And trust me, if Snape's cloak hadn't caught fire and broken my eye contact, I would have succeeded. Even with Snape muttering his little counter-curse.
But if Voldemort is fully aware that Snape actually tried to save Harry's life, why does he then recruit him to try to kill Harry later on in the franchise?
What's happening?
The staircase has changed. remember?
Let's go this way.
Before the staircase moves again.
Just turn around and go back down the stairs! Yeah, in the book, this scene happens in the dead of night when they're running away from Filch, but why are they acting like they're trapped in the middle of the day? Why does Harry bother throwing on the invisibility cloak if the idiot is just going to stick out his hand with a lantern anyway? Filch points out someone's out of bed, and Snape and Quirrell rush off to investigate, but this is literally never touched upon again. Harry doesn't even go back to his room. He ditches and finds the mirror, and then rushes off to get Ron and brings him back, but surely at some point during all of that, Snape and Quirrell would have got back to their dorm and be like, hang on, where's Ron and Harry? And to punish the kids for sneaking around after dark, the children are then sent to the dark Forbidden Forest, which is off limits and they can possibly die in. And Hagrid even leaves two of them unattended with his dog, who he admits is a bloody coward.
Drinking the blood of a unicorn will keep you alive even if you are an inch from death.
Could probably use that in like every movie after this. I'm sure that'll come in handy. Does this mean that Quirrell also went through all of these tests to get to the mirror? I mean, he went through the vines, he flew around, he played chess, and then the rooms just all reset themselves. It's also pretty convenient that all three tests perfectly match all of these three kids' skills that were all foreshadowed earlier in the film. And that the first of the tests is something that you can bypass by doing absolutely nothing. At least in the book they had to blast the plant with fire, but here, just relax and it'll be fine. And why does Ron sit on the horse? He doesn't need to. He could just shout out the command. It's also really funny that Harry intentionally grabs Quirrell's face after seeing that he burns to his touch, because it means that he deliberately murdered someone before the end of his first year. Yeah, mind out, Bundy. And Harry gets to the stone simply by wishing for it.
Only a person who wanted to find the stone, find it, but not use it, would be able to get it.
So what's the point in all of those challenges before reaching the mirror then? He could have just wished for it and it just appeared in his pocket. I mean, surely it's all pointless and completely redundant if he can't use the stone anyway. Oh, and Harry burns Voldemort through the power of love.
Do you know why Professor Quirrell couldn't bear to have you touch him? It was because of your mother. She sacrificed herself for you. And that kind of act leaves a mark.
And who the hell is Nicholas Flamel? The movie barely elaborates. But other than that, this film is awesome. It's just a lot of fun, and surprisingly, this is one of the more consistent films in the franchise. The performances are great, except for the kids, the visuals and filmmaking are on point, and it perfectly brings this wonderful story to life. Honestly, it's a great little adventure, and only a great sign of things to come. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone wasn't just the beginning of a movie series, it was the birth of a pop culture phenomenon. Through meticulous attention to detail, respectful adaptation, and heartfelt performances, the film captured the imagination of millions and proved that even the most magical worlds can be brought to life with care, creativity, and a little bit of wizardry.